This is Chris with Dive Zone Scuba for another technical diving tips, techniques, and trips video.
Welcome divers. Thanks for joining me today. The subject of today's video is inflator malfunctions. And in this video, we're not going to talk about the common type of inflator malfunction, which occurs when hardened lubricant prevents the inflator button from coming back out and stop releasing air, or if there's sand or grit in the inflator malfunction that causes it to leak air. We're not going to be talking about that. Of course, the appropriate technique for responding to that, which is covered in open water courses, is to perhaps let a little bit of air out of the BCD and remove the inflator hose. What we're going to talk about in this video is a much more serious situation where what eventually happens is your inflator button actually falls off. Now, I have heard other divers tell me of situations like this and how they responded, but what I'm going to relate to you is a situation that recently occurred to me on a 230-foot technical dive. On my ascent, I heard a hissing noise and I looked down at my inflator. I then pressed the button to attempt to clear any debris or sand that was out of the inflator that was causing the inflator to leak. The next thing I know is that when I press the button down to clear it, the button actually pops off. So what we're going to do is we're going to discuss what I did, what you should do, what you should not do, and hopefully what this will do is it will give you an idea on how to best respond in the event, the odd event, that you find yourself in this situation. Alright, so I have a number of inflators here on the table, and I'm not going to identify who the manufacturer is, but I'm sure people that are familiar with diving gear can figure it out themselves, but there are very common types of inflators. And the top two here, this one is the common K inflator that's commonly found on many different types of technical diving gear. This particular design has a round knob like this, in order to inflate it, of course, you press down on that button. This is a similar design inflator, but the mechanism is slightly different. And again, it has a round button here that is pressed to put air into your BCD. So what's common with these two types of inflators is that they have round buttons, and it is remotely possible, as I have experienced, to have the button actually pop off, and that can be of concern. I would have thought that there was Loctite on the threaded part that's connected to the button, but apparently after having disassembled a number of these, that is not actually the case. Alright, so then now we have another type of inflator down here, and in this case the button is not round and it's in a recess. So in this particular inflator's case, it can actually not really rotate off because of the way that the button fits into the housing. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at what happens when the button pops off and the hose is connected. We're going to take a look at that. Now, I've done this several times, and what I have discovered is that you cannot guarantee, okay, that a particular behavior will occur when the button pops off, because it's a little more complicated than that. One of the things is, what is the circumstances under which the button pops off? Are you pressing the button at the time when it pops off, or are you releasing your finger or your thumb from it? What exactly happens? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the button off here with the inflator connected, inflator hose connected, and we're going to see this one time what happens. And as I said, the results on this are sometimes inconsistent as to exactly what's going on. Okay, so here's our K valve, and I'm going to pop this off, and if the button just pops off, okay, and you're not manipulating it at the time, then with this particular design, nothing happens. I'm now going to move on to this design, inflator valve, and I'm going to connect my live inflator hose again on this, and I'm going to now unscrew this. Okay, and it pops off. Okay, and I don't hear anything happening. Now I'm going to connect this to this particular inflator and see what happens. Okay, this is the one that's kind of oval shaped, so I'm going to have to manipulate it a little bit in order to get it to pop off. I'm not being very successful here. Okay, all right, so this has come off, and there is a substantial leak, not a catastrophic leak, but there's a substantial leak if this were to ever pop off. So if I take the hose off, okay, then the air stops flowing through the regulator. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reconnect each one of these, and I'm going to show you what you don't want to do. So if the button pops off, there may be a stem that is extending out of here, and if you accidentally or deliberately press this stem, this is what's going to happen. Okay, you now have a very catastrophic leak. You now have a very catastrophic leak, and you can possibly attempt to pull this out with your fingers. We're going to try that in a minute. We'll see how successful we are doing that. Okay, so it is possible, if the stem has not gone too far into the body of the inflator, that you can pull it back out and stop the inflator from inflating. Now let's take a look at this one. I'm going to press on it. Okay. Again, we have a catastrophic leak, and I'm going to attempt to pull it out. Okay, I can pull it out and it will stop. Let's try this one. Okay, we have a smaller leak. I can pull it up, but if I let it go, it will continue leaking. So the only way to stop that leaking is by pulling this off. Now, let's go back to this one, the K valve. I'm going to stick this on. Pull it out. It started leaking by itself. Okay, so it might leak by itself a little bit like the like this inflator. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to press it in further, and we'll see what happens. Okay. The stem has actually gone completely inside the housing, and there is no way to recover this. This will continue leaking air at a high rate, and the only thing you can do is pull off the inflator hose. Okay, back to this one. Okay, leaking a little bit there. Okay, make sure it's out. I'm going to press this down. Okay, it goes down in here, but now it's a little more difficult to get out because it's further down in the housing, but I can successfully pull it out. Let's do that again. If I push it down far enough, again, it leaks heavily, but this time I cannot extract the stem. All right, so let's take a look at this one now. Every time I press it down, it pops back up. And I can pull it up, but as soon as I pull it up, it starts leaking again. So even though I can temporarily stop it like that, it will leak again, and the only way that I can get it to stop leaking is if I pull this back out. Okay, so that is the three different types of inflators. And what you don't want to do in review is you do not want to press down on the stem Otherwise, you may not be able to recover it, and you will have to remove the inflator hose from the inflator, and you'll either have to go to your backup buoyancy, or you're going to have to, if you have a redundant bladder, or you are going to have to use your DSMB or a lift bag to assist you in your buoyancy. You could possibly also, depending upon what happens, you could possibly also attempt to manually inflate your BCD, but this could potentially happen. When you blow into it, the air leaks out somewhere else through the hole. Okay, so you can try that, but not guaranteeing that you're going to be able to maintain neutral buoyancy like is taught again in open water classes to shift to neutral buoyancy or to shift to oral inflation until you can achieve neutral buoyancy and abort the dive. Okay, so this personally did happen to me, and I thought it important enough to make it the subject of a video so that perhaps some of you, if you ever encounter this situation, you might know how to better react.
One last thing that I wanted to talk about was the inflator fitting and also the inflator hose. Back in 2017, one of my first technical diving students attached his inflator hose to his inflator but was unable to disconnect it. This was the result of the Schrader valve in the inflator hose fitting backing out just enough to prevent it from being removed. We just happened to have discovered this before the dive. After some difficulty, we were able to remove the hose. We then screwed the Schrader valve back down into the fitting, and then the hose actually operated correctly after that. So it's not a bad idea to add an inflator hose connection and disconnection in your gear check, just in case you need to disconnect it like you might have to in this video. This is Chris with Dive Zone Scuba. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.